I thought today would be a good day to do some reviews about the impact of Syria and uh, other issues on Russia and Putin. First of all, the Ukrainian special operations, the assassination of General Igor Kirillov, and the audacity of that operation in the heart of Moscow, just miles from the Kremlin, within sort of walking distance of one of the main Moscow metro stations. And if you connect this with Ukraine's campaign of sabotage and assassination, as Ukraine has admitted being behind this, the earlier killing of Dr. Mikhail Shitsky, another key figure in Russia's arsenal, the person who was developing a range of missiles. And these operations aim to destabilize and demoralize Russian leadership, and the psychological and strategic implication that this must have for Putin, who's already highly security conscious. Think of the long tables and paranoid. That is, assuming that he's actually alive. How could this how could this not exacerbate the internal distrust within the Kremlin and weaken his already tenuous grip on power? If he's alive, there is also, like Boris Johnson, Putin has a very close relationship with fridges, and in late October 2023, there were reports that surfaced alleging the death of Putin, and these claims, propagated by the Telegram channel General SVR, claimed that Putin had died at his Valdai residence and was being impersonated by body doubles. Now, the Kremlin, of course, has dismissed these allegations, and Dmitry Peskov labelled the reports as absurd information hoaxes, but they persisted, at least until December 2024, when they at least until December 2023, when they suddenly stopped. And that sudden cessation, to me, seemed very odd. It's important to recognize that General SVR had or has a history of disseminating information that is unverified about Putin's health, including previous claims of serious illnesses, cancer, body doubles, and so on. But for those people who are in the strange position of having shaken Putin's hand, it is clear that the Putin we see on television is not the same Putin that I, for example, met in 2016, I think. I can't remember exactly the details. And so either I met a body double or I met the real one, and this is a body double. It's as simple as that. And the plethora of reports about Putin's death and then the sudden stopping, to me, is suspicious. And so, on the one hand, I think this is a bit of a wheeze or a wooze, a wheeze or a ruse. But on the other hand, I think there's an element of truth about it. Just as I think there's an element of truth about the allegation that Putin is gay, and that the affair with Alina Kabayeva is some sort of beard. If you check, there's a book which was published. I'm going to read a section from it. The Small Vladimir, goes the text, grew up practically without a father and without the love and care of his parents. He was a withdrawn and grim child. Grim indeed. Putin was born the son of an alcoholic 2 years before his official birth date. It's like something out of On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, isn't it? Barbara Streisand is going to do a musical number in the middle of this. His mother moved to Georgia with Vladimir. only for the child to be shunted off to Leningrad a short time later to a couple who would become the official parents of the future president. It makes one almost sympathetic. Poor fellow. I was 2 months premature, but Putin, says the text, is 2 years premature. I was abandoned, and so it seems was he. So desperate was Putin for a real family that he identified Yeltsin as a father figure and Roman Abramovich as a surrogate brother. So desperate for a family. Putin spent most of his time with and reserves his affection for his 2 dogs, the Labrador Connie and the Bulgarian shepherd dog Buffy. And the writer of this particular book goes on to look at his 2 daughters, Maria and Ekaterina. I cannot quite see where they fit into the story, but actually I know some of Putin's puppies who were distributed among his friends and cronies, and I'm a little bit worried that that I moved in the circles where his puppies were rather lovely dogs, actually, by the time I met them, where his puppies had been adopted. And I couldn't speculate any further about the Mr. Belkovsky, but the idea that Putin is gay might have sounded more as far-fetched as alleging that Gordon Brown or Prince Edward was gay, or God forbid that people like what's his name? He was a former foreign secretary. Anyway, was gay. That these people might be harbouring homosexual tendencies. But what Belkovsky says in his book is that there was never any evidence for a latent homosexual tendency, and Putin wasn't sharing hotel bedrooms, but there was speculation that he was that he could have been gay. I think that's the best way of putting it. That he could have been gay. There was no evidence that he was. There was no evidence that he was sharing hotel bedrooms. In the same way as, I think there was more evidence that Pope Paul VI was gay than that Putin was gay. Paul VI. There was a story by a man called Franco Bellegrande. And Paul VI challenged that at the time publicly and demanded a day of prayer for the perceived insult. Well, Putin, what happened to Putin is there was a sudden rush of imagery turning up in the popular press, and there was particularly an image of President Putin wearing makeup, apparently reacting to the photo. Apparently this was a result of the Belkovsky book alleging that he might be gay, and the Moscow courts prosecuted people with this picture. Court papers say that the image hints at the Russian president's allegedly non-standard sexual orientation. That's from the Moscow Times at the time. The image showing Putin wearing makeup and red lipstick, and the text on the picture says, "They say there are many of them, but there aren't any among the people I know." And so that's the basic background of the allegations that Putin is dead and the allegations that Putin is gay. Both those allegations are allegations that have been repeated. I haven't started these stories, and what is most interesting about them, about both of them, is the way they were suppressed. If they're so untrue, they don't really even, you don't even need to give the time of day to them. But they were suppressed with great force, and suddenly the stories stop almost overnight in each case. So that I'm the only person left peddling this filth. And I think that's interesting. Added to which, of course, the doppelganger idea and the along with the mincing walk and the extraordinary behaviour. This is not a normal man. This is not a normal man. And you can say this is paranoia, which has produced this strange little Dobby-like creature. It's it's the gradual allure of evil sort of creeping up, like some spectre, crawling up his spine, like something out of Doctor Who and the spiders. I can't remember that was the last Doctor Who of John Pertwee. And, or you can just simply admit the truth. A, he's dead. B, he was gay, and desperate to hide it. And he had more time for his dogs than he did for his wife and his quote girlfriend. As beards go, she's done a very good job. And the effectiveness of Ukraine's drone strikes, the sabotage operations on logistics and infrastructure that have slowed the Russian advances, particularly in Kursk, but most of all, the impact that these operations have had, the military, the propaganda, the assassinations on the morale in the Kremlin, I think have been significant. And the setbacks have undermined Russia's narrative of dominance and strategic prowess. And then you get Syria's collapse. On top of that, the fall of Bashar al-Assad and Russia's failure to sustain its ally despite a decade of huge investment in the Syrian conflict, and hope to be a major player, a major figure of influence in the Middle East. And what instead we've got is a picture of a country whose military capabilities and whose even air defense systems are collapsing. The strain on Russia's military-industrial complex and its reliance on allies like North Korea and Iran instead, whose contributions have been inconsistent or ineffective, its reliance on mercenaries like the Wagner campaign, the Wagner troops, foreign meddling, military deployments, all failing, demonstrably failing, and this hits in the heart of the Kremlin. And disinformation remains one of the few of Russia's effective tools, even as its conventional military efforts stumble. But it's important to call out Russia as a nation, or the Kremlin as a device that is faltering and increasingly desperate. And if Putin were alive, I would have expected him to be all over the media, not as an AI-generated replacement, but as the real thing, pointing out the importance of their own operations. But he hasn't been. He hasn't been. Putin is an absent landlord in this strange house of falling cards. And the next issue is how the West should respond to Putin's failure, to Putin's absence, to the use of chemical weapons, the phosphorus attacks, the gas attacks, the assassination campaigns by Putin, by Russia, and the disinformation. Russia says it's not at war with anyone, says just a special military campaign. Ukraine is different. Ukraine says it is at war with Russia. And if it takes that war to the streets of Moscow, that is a legitimate aspect of war. If Putin claims he is not at war, his assassination attempts all over the world are an outrageous extension of threat and power. And NATO and allied countries need to bolster support for Ukraine, including more defensive gear like gas masks to counter the chemical weapons that are being abusively and illegitimately used by the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Putin, if he is alive, is in a precarious position. He faces defeat on multiple fronts, mounting internal dissent, a global reputation in tatters. And while Putin may escalate in desperation, the cracks in his regime are increasingly visible, with Ukraine and its allies steadily capitalizing on these weaknesses. And Assad's fall, I think, probably is as serious to the Putin mission as the failure of the internal Kremlin dynamics, as the exposing of the lies and the secrets at the heart of the Kremlin.